it's a bit wet, it's a bit wild, it's a bit windy, and I was going to sort of say I'm in the warmth, but not quite. Hence why the jacket's on again. So all good on my end. OS, how are you? Good to see you back in England.
Just before that, I see the missus is not letting you put the heating on in December.
No, I'm upstairs. The heating's on downstairs.
She's running a tight ship, I must say.
Yeah,
But
unfortunately.
yeah, I'm doing well, thank you. Back from the sunny climate of Dubai and Abu Dhabi. But yeah, can't say I did come home and I was complaining to the missus that bloody hell is freezing, but it's probably not fair to say that given that I've lived most of my life over here. So yeah, no, doing well, thank you. Coming to the year end, lots of football being played, so that's been good fun as always. Following some of the championship scores, no doubt we'll delve into that a little. If you may
I'm
indulge me.
ticking. I'm ticking already.
He's ticking. But yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you very much.
Right. Okay. Well, let's see if we can warm the audience up with some good football talk.
We'll
But
have to
before,
we'll have to skip Leeds then.
no, I think they love that, especially because we did get beat. So probably they might enjoy that little segment.
What's going on, Ayub? What is going on?
I just it it's something that I've keep talking about in terms of Fark. I question whether he's really that good a coach. And I think a lot of people, a lot of the fans just use this like he's had 2 promotions with Norwich. So that's almost a default setting that he must be a good coach. But apart from that, obviously in the Premier League, he was awful. In Germany as well, I think I'm not sure. I forget which team he managed in Germany, but they were about 10th, 11th. I think what it is, if you've got good players, or if he's got good players, it's the players that win games. When it comes to tactics, playing against certain systems, that's what he's woeful. That's exactly what Preston did. Preston just made it ugly. They were physical. They were leaving a boot in virtually every single time. But they were just more hungry. It was wretched. He picked the same side again, even though he was claiming that he was going to rotate the squad. So it was just a poor performance. We got Melier sent off for a ridiculous. I mean, people were sort of saying that the Preston player. It was very dramatic, but I have no problem with that. At the end of the day, these are sportsmen, and sometimes there'll be elements of gamesmanship. Melia fell for it, but we were awful, and my nerves are kicking in again because it's a full championship program today. We're playing at 8:15
West
against
Brom.
West Brom,
Yeah.
and it's. I think if we don't get 3 points, we're forget automatics. I think to a certain extent, I think we've forgotten automatics anyway. If there's any side that's going to catch up Ipswich, it's going to be Southampton. They are on a run. I think 16 or 17 games unbeaten. They seem to be sort of winning every single game. So it's not looking too good for Leeds. Probably playoffs at best, and we never ever sort of do well at playoffs. So it's not looking good at all. It's a bit like the weather outside.
I think yeah, you're on a little bit of you had that big win, didn't you, against Ipswich?
We did, yeah.
And then yeah, I think the Preston result. Yeah, and you could have got a point out of it, right? I think it was. But look, I think fourth against fifth, West Brom. To your point, I think you're away, aren't you?
Yeah.
But Southampton on a very good run. I mean, you're still within what I would say touching distance of Ipswich. 8 points is still, in my opinion, not a lot. At least still at this stage. I think if we had about 10 to 12 games to go, I'd probably feel a bit more confident if I was in Ipswich shoes. You're right. Probably playoffs look like the best bet currently. I mean, Leicester should see this out, you would
Oh,
think.
they've strolled it. They've
Yeah.
walked away with this league.
But yeah, I think Southampton on a bit of a run. They could easily catch Ipswich, but you expect them to have, or you can't expect them to continue with this kind of run. So let's see, you need a win. You need a win just to kind of settle yourselves and again put that gap between yourselves and seventh, which is the first port of call, at least for my liking. But let's see, you're still in there, you're still up there. I wouldn't, I wouldn't be too despondent.
I am too despondent, and the natives are getting restless. I can see us getting edgy, and there's quite a fair bit of anti-Fark sort of conversations taking place. And I'm the ringleader. I've been saying this for a long, long time. But enough about the championship and Leeds. I'm no doubt we'll pick this up on the next show. But before we start, as always, let me ask the audience to subscribe if you haven't, smash a like, share with your friends, do all the good stuff as you always do. Okay, so let's start where, well, there's only one place to start, and it's at the top of the table. I think we discussed on our last show. I mean, there's been so many games. I've no idea where we're at. But I think on the last one we discussed or we previewed the Arsenal Liverpool game.
Yeah.
And then that was a cracking game. And then sort of over the last few days, there's been some indifferent results, especially for your Arsenal. So how do you sort of feel? First, have a little chat about the Arsenal Liverpool game, which was excellent game. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I was a Liverpool fan, a little bit disappointed. I thought in the end, Liverpool edged it. And yesterday, Arsenal. What's happening? Are the wheels
What's
coming off?
are the wheels coming off? That would be the Ayub train of thought, the way you follow Leeds for sure. I mean, let's just quickly cover the Arsenal Liverpool game. I think from an objective point of view, you hit the nail on the head. It was a fantastic game in the sense that it felt like two heavyweights going at it. I thought Arsenal played remarkably well under what was quite a vociferous atmosphere. You knew Liverpool, after Klopp's pleas towards the fans, were going to be ready and up for it, and Arsenal met that challenge head on. Started the game incredibly well, got the goal, and then obviously being pegged back by that great goal by Salah, especially the assist from Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think, look, I'm going to comment purely just on terms of the significance about the two teams. Klopp, if you remember, when he finally shook Arteta's hand at full time, was saying, "Wow, wow, wow!" in terms of the intensity of the game. It was a huge game. It felt like it. It felt like these two teams could, and I say could, be worthy of winning the Premier League title. Liverpool will feel they should have just edged it, especially with that Trent Alexander-Arnold chance. But I thought Arsenal actually also controlled the game fairly well for that last 15, 20 minutes, like a big team should in terms of away from home. So I thought they still had a lot of good control, winning a lot of good free kicks, getting up the pitch, winning a few corners. It felt like there could still be a late twist in the tail as Arsenal piled on with a few more corners. But I still thought a draw probably was the fairest result in my humble opinion. And again, I felt like could one of those two teams be worthy based on that performance alone, be worthy of winning the title? And I thought, yeah, they would be. There's some elite level play. Obviously, off the back of that, they're just kind of coming on to tomorrow, especially from yesterday from an Arsenal perspective. Are you? I mean, my overriding emotion was one of obviously disappointment, but I wasn't. I know this sounds weird, but I wasn't overly angry or frustrated in that sense because I think that there are results that you get in a season where you're just going to have to put it to bed. There's a lot of football coming. You can either argue and be quite fatalistic and say, well, this is it. This is why we're not going to win the title. I didn't really feel that. I think it was a performance in game week 19 now, which was probably the first time where I felt Arsenal were a little tepid and just not quite good. I'd say maybe for the 60, 65 minutes at Stamford Bridge, I also felt something similar. But I thought this was the first time where they weren't quite at it. And it was the kind of game, Ayub, that Arsenal, in my opinion, don't do so well in, which is they want a lot of control, which means you probably don't want to concede the first goal against a team that knows how to defend. I thought West Ham were incredible yesterday in terms of the way they defended. I thought also the fact that Arteta's not been able to rotate in some key areas where he'd like to play Tomiyasu, maybe he'd like to give Partey a game. Even Rice looked a little sluggish yesterday. And there's a lot of football being played. That's no excuse, but he's playing obviously 90 minutes pretty much all the time in all the games, Champions League included. So it's probably one where one or two perhaps needed a breather, or you want some natural rotation to your point about Leeds earlier as well. So I think, look, from an Arsenal perspective, disappointing result. My overriding emotion was one of, look, you're going to get some of these results during the course of the season. You're not winning every game. You have to be reasonable. You have to be understanding. There's a lot of football coming up. You hope that they can go back away to Fulham next on Sunday, quick turnaround, and hopefully put that to bed. It's a game they should win. Fulham, not necessarily in a real kind of great form. So, yeah, generally, I felt like West Ham, I'm not saying they deserved it because Arsenal still put a lot into that game, but it wasn't a normal, typical Arsenal in terms of cutting through them. West Ham again defended quite resolute. I thought Odegaard really kept trying till the very end. I think that's a notable mention. I admire that in captains, but also in players when things are not going well, you continue to try until the very end. So look, I don't want to be too despondent. I think it was a huge opportunity. Of course, it was. Home games against teams that you expect to beat, let's be very clear, are opportunities missed. But I think, look, you could say the same for Man City against home to Palace. Palace are considering removing Roy Hodgson from his managerial duties, and many still expect Man City to win the Premier League title. So it goes to show that you're going to get the odd difficult result, even at home against teams that you expect to win. Again, I'd like to give West Ham credit on this one. In the end, two good goals from their perspective, especially the second one. I thought as much as you can argue defensively you want to do a bit, it's to be fair, it's an incredible header, to be fair, in amongst a lot of bodies. So I think you want to kind of put that one to bed quickly. Of course, it puts a bit more pressure on the next game, but I wasn't, again, it didn't feel to me as though, oh, that's the reason why we won't win the league. Many will think because of kind of strikers and opportunities missed. Oh, that's why you need a Tony, you need one of those kind of players. But in the end, I'd like to think it's probably just one of those games where things don't quite go for them, and hopefully they can resurrect and kind of correct that in the games to come.
I mean, the game starts yesterday. I think around 70% possession, 30 shots on goal. So certainly in terms of overall play, I mean, I don't think you can have too many complaints. Maybe they weren't as sharp, and I think you were right. They were a little bit leggy. And maybe you are right. Maybe he wants to rotate, but perhaps he sort of feels that he's not in a position to rotate. But I want to talk about the Liverpool Arsenal game. Just a couple of talking points. And you're right. I think that certainly at the start of the game, Arsenal were in complete control. I mean, I really expected that from the first 10, 15 minutes that it was just going to be one way because they seemed to be in complete control. They were in the ascendancy, and Liverpool very much on the back foot at Anfield. And it was. I mean, the first goal, it almost sort of felt it was inevitable that it was going to come. Not great defending by Konate, who I thought thereafter was outstanding. I thought it was one of the best performances I've seen by Konate. But there was a key talking point. You probably know where I'm going now with Odegaard. For me, I cannot believe that was not a penalty. I just cannot believe it at all. And Liverpool have been on the rough end of some decisions, some via VAR, some just it's not even been referred to. I mean, I presume obviously it was checked, but it was. What's your sort of take on that? For me, it was quite clear cut. I mean, there's certain. I know there are times when it's accidental, but there was a. I don't know. This seemed wasn't quite accidental. Maybe not intentional, but certainly wasn't accidental.
Just, I mean, I'm going to comment briefly on it. In my humble opinion, unbiased opinion, I didn't think it was a penalty. I really didn't, because I'll tell you the reasons why. And one of the reasons you're not
Yeah,
going
I'm
to give
intrigued.
one one of the reasons I know you're not going to give me much leeway or leash with. But look, I think the first things first. Salah flicks it onto his kind of right hand side, right? And Odegaard clearly slips. I think we all accept that he slips. That doesn't mean that you're allowed to just handball it. But I think what happens is there's a natural overcorrection that your body does instinctively when you slip, which is to kind of find your balance, and that's what brings his arm to where it is. So it's absolutely not intentional. Again, doesn't mean that it can't be given as a penalty, but I think we all accept, in my opinion, that it's not intentional. I think the fact that he slipped forces his arm to move in a certain way and in a certain direction. And then the question I would ask is, and you're not going to give me much leeway with this, is I would still say, how threatening of a situation is it? And then everyone's in uproar about, oh, it's a penalty, it's a penalty. Firstly, he's flicked it on his right hand side. It's going slightly away from goal. The best Salah's going to be able to do is flick a crossing from that point into a sea of bodies. And all of a sudden, we've become so numb where we're looking for handballs left and right, where it's like, oh, it's a dead cert, it's a dead cert. I heard Jamie Carragher talking about it. It's a dead cert penalty. And I'm just saying, look, let's take a couple of steps back. Are those the penalties that we're actually claiming for, where there's absolutely zero advantage, in my opinion, to Arsenal having got handball there? I mean, I don't see there was an advantage. What are you arguing?
Yeah, but
Salah's.
that's not the
Yeah, but
conversation
no,
here, is it?
but the
That's not
point.
the
Okay, and
conversation.
that's why I broke it down with two reasons, and I will give you the floor. The first is I think his body reacts in a way because of the fact that he slipped. So I don't want to punish him for that. That's my point. And we saw something maybe a little bit similar with the City Everton game. And secondly, this is just me on an island, perhaps. For me, it's a zero threatening situation where the Liverpool offensive team has not been disadvantaged in any way, shape, or form. I don't want to see penalties given left and right for those kind of things. And if you want to talk about penalties, and you may come on to it, but I thought the Havertz one was very clumsy from Trent Alexander-Arnold. It didn't get any real attention because not many people do want to give it attention. Maybe because it's Havertz, and I heard the commentary, oh, he's looking for it. In my opinion, if you look at it again, and when you accept the fact that if the referee gives it, it's not being reversed, it was a very clumsy challenge. But again, probably doesn't get the attention that it warrants because Odegaard handball took all the incident. What were your thoughts on it anyway?
Clearly a penalty. I mean, I I understand the arguments that you're trying to make, but until the law changes, uh, it's a non-argument because I'm purely looking at what happened, what the laws are, and you can sort of say yes, he slipped, but it was that it was just it's not too it's one of those where if it was purely accidental where he completely slips and he has absolutely no control, I thought he had an element of control, and that's why for me it's not completely uh inadvertent. I think there is a certain sort of movement that he makes, where whether it's and I don't think that was based on the fact that he slipped, and I think that's the thing. And it matters not a jot whether it was a goal scoring opportunity or whether it was there was a high
No,
probability,
but
whether
but
it was.
then you want to live in a world where even if it's not gonna be any type of goal scoring opportunity, you just want handballs given if it hits the hand. And I'm like, come
It's
on.
until the rule changes. I mean, I'm with you on the argument. I mean, obviously, you gave a really, really sort of detailed, very well thought out argument in terms of what should be penalties, what shouldn't be penalties. But until the law changes, according to the law as it stands, that to me was quite clear. And I think if it was the other way around, I wouldn't have obviously liked it, but I would have had to accept it. So I think Liverpool were hard done by, and
What were your thoughts on the Havertz one?
Uh, I haven't watched it. I haven't
There,
watched it, so
there you
I
go.
was thinking I'd
There you
watched it, but I haven't watched it. So I'll
go.
have to watch it, and then maybe on the next one I'll make a comment on that. But it was this is it happening. I mean, I'm not going to sort of say there's maybe Liverpool are on the rough end of quite a few decisions, but that was to me that should have been a penalty. And just in terms of the game itself, I mean, and a quick one before we move on, the Trent Arnold right at the or towards the end of the game. I mean, that was just the charge of the Light Brigade. Everybody broke. Uh, I think there was a slight bobble, but I mean, it always makes me chuckle when there's a slight bubble, and I'm sort of thinking that in the 80s, the pitches were bumpy and players were scoring lots of goals. It's these players are just so spoilt that they're used to carpets that even when a ball maybe fractionally sort of misbehaves, because that's what they were saying. I mean, I still think he should have buried that, and it was, and I think on the balance of play maybe a draw would have been a fair result. But I think Liverpool probably after the game might have just thought we had a couple of opportunities, one especially right at the end, and I don't know how costly that's going to be. Now, the fact that Arsenal got beat by West Ham gives them, I suppose, some sort of breathing space. But
Yeah, I'm with you. Look, I think when you're playing against your rivals, not losing is the first port of call, and I think Liverpool avoided defeat. A game that Arsenal, I thought, still had large measures of control at various points. There's no doubt Liverpool, especially the first 15, 20 minutes of that second half, were definitely in the ascendancy. And with that Trent Alexander-Arnold chance, should have put it away. There was a great recovery sprint, but also if you watch Saliba and Nunes on the far side, it's just kind of stride for stride in terms of the recovery run that Saliba makes. Nunes in the open field is quite the athlete, to be honest with you. But it's quite an interesting race to see. But yeah, look, he should put it away, and I think Trent Alexander-Arnold did comment as much. I do want to just quickly give him his props for his assist for Salah, though. What's really interesting about that assist, in my opinion, anyway, is that he's kind of got he's got the ball at his feet. Jesus not really putting him under any pressure, which is fair enough. I mean, he's a long way away from goal. And what's really interesting is that Zinchenko has two options here. He could either play Salah offside or try and play him offside, and he takes the more defensive, conservative approach, which is not give myself 1 or 2 yards. And when a defender gives himself 1 or 2 yards, and he's in a deeper position than Salah, the last thing you expect is the pass to still float over your head, because that's the whole point of giving yourself 2 or 3 yards. The fact that I'm not going to let this ball sail over my head into the winger's feet. And yet Arnold, because he's so great, still manages to find the absolute perfect angle for that ball to still sail over Zinchenko's head, yet still be slow enough so that Salah can actually collect it. I mean, you can talk a lot about Zinchenko's defensive actions after that. And yes, as an Arsenal fan, you've got to somehow keep him on his right foot. I mean, it's pretty obvious you don't let him cut inside into a situation where you can win. But I think the pass, given Zinchenko was already covering that pass, so to speak, by taking a defensive position, it just goes to show how incredibly efficient he is with that right foot, that he still found the perfect angle. So incredible assist. Salah obviously did the rest. Good finish at the near post. No qualms with the keeper really from that angle. But yeah, I thought a draw was still probably the fair result, to be fair, in the end.
But a cracking game, really enjoyable watch, and worthy of teams that are number 1 and 2. And I'm glad that Liverpool are still top of the table, because it sort of, it's what I predicted. So all good stuff at the top end
Well,
of the table.
that's one of your predictions going well so
Oh
far.
yeah, I think it's the only one that's going well.
I agree. I agree.
Right, onto the soap opera, which is Manchester United. I mean, it's just is, it's I it just seems to be the most dramatic and remarkable season that this club has had in a number of years of very many sort of dramas. Uh, we've been talking about Ten Hag sort of hanging on to the job by the skin of his teeth. Uh, it sort of it almost sort of looks as if it's going to be the end, and then suddenly something happens, and he pulls a result out of the bag. And my goodness me, what a result! What a result! It was just I mean, at one stage you just thought curtains, but outstanding. And I commented
Yeah.
when they played against Liverpool that it certainly looked as the players were still sort of back in Ten Hag. And I think we've got to sort of say that the players are behind him. Whether they're good enough, that may be another question. But certainly in terms of commitment application, they're obviously still sort of completely following Ten Hag at the moment. So what's your take on the game, and sort of what happens next with Manchester United?
Whilst I was watching the Aston Villa game, I swear you, I was thinking about that very comment that you made time and time again, especially after that Liverpool result. You said that it looks for the world that they are still pretty much behind the manager. You don't put that sort of performance. I mean, you put it forward because ultimately you've got personal pride and you're playing for the badge and what have you. They shouldn't really have to play for the manager. But it was clearly a team that you thought, but they're not down tools. There's something there. There's
Hmm.
some fight there. Uh, but then to your point, there's this incredible mixed bag that you get with Man United, where even half to half, you can get incredibly shaky results. I think what's clear, let's summarize it. What's clear for me is that United don't really have a consistent way of playing that's going to ultimately win them more games than not. I mean, that's been proven out by the statistics and by a large sample size now, Ayub, as we head into 2024. So I think that much I think is unequivocal and clear. I think when you watch and if you remember, we spoke about it. You asked me the question, any other games tickle your fancy? And I said, look, I think the West Ham game is still one that is big, regardless of the Liverpool draw. I think if going away to West Ham, I still think he's under the pump. I still think he's under pressure. And United put forward quite the tepid performance, didn't they? I mean, they lost 2-0. Some of the comments by Ten Hag will give him some leeway because it's not his first language, but I think they would have upset a lot of United fans where he spoke about the fact that they were fairly solid, fairly in control, but it just wasn't the case. It was a nothing game, let's be very clear. But when you're away from home, you always then fancy the home team to make that difference, perhaps egged on by or kind of pushed on by the home faithful, right, in around the Christmas time. So West Ham probably deserved to win because United didn't do enough.
Hmm.
Ultimately, if you don't do enough, you can't really stake a claim to get a win. So they had that result, the negative result, and this I was thinking, there you go. This is typical Man United, just what you
Hmm.
expect after Anfield to put forward a tepid performance. And I did feel that if they lost against Aston Villa, I think there was a possibility that he may not be Man United manager. I do still think he's holding on for dear life, so to speak. The Villa game, what I would say though, is it was probably one of the better games this season. That's first and foremost. I thought Villa were incredible after their slightly negative result at home to Sheffield United. If you remember, they had that chance Friday night to go top
Hmm.
of the table.
Yeah.
They fluffed their opportunity heading into the Liverpool Arsenal game the day after. So there was some question marks when I watched them against Sheffield United. Again, I watched the game from start to finish, where they finished the game very lax. They were blowing. They looked a little leggy. Sheffield United, remember, took the lead, so they were lucky to get the draw in the end. And I just thought it'll be interesting to see how Villa react now. Away to United, Villa are the better team. I think that much is clear. I think from the season put forth, and Villa again started really well. Again, question marks over the goalkeeper. I'll let you cover that, Ayub, with Onana with the free kick going directly in. But Villa looking It's looking comfortable. Boos at halftime, 2-0. But that second half, there was something. I swear, United looked like they were going to score in the first half. To be fair, so I didn't think the game was over. United did threaten to get in behind quite a few times, and then Villa suddenly stopped playing. And I think what it is, and this is what I came away with, is that I do feel as though when United are kind of just attacking, you feel like, well, one or two things going to happen. They're going to score, the other team's going to score, and I don't think that's a recipe to win championships. Let's be very clear. But it did kind of upset Villa's rhythm. Villa were very much a non-entity in the second half, and I did feel if United could get that first goal relatively early, you remember they had the goal disallowed, but if they could get the goal early, I still thought they had a chance to win the game. And then at 2-1, I was saying to my son whilst we were watching, I said, I swear, I think United are going to win this. They're creating a chance every couple of minutes. And I thought in the end they deserved to win the game. It was an incredible second half performance. I think the crowd was absolutely bouncing. You saw Ten Hag kind of jumping up and down the sidelines. I mean, you could tell it was a what Old Trafford probably sounded like in the good old days. And I think huge credit has to go to Garnacho. I think he's been a huge kind of fire starter in terms of that kind of impetus for them. A big success story. I think we spoke about him before the season started, that he's got a chance. Obviously, he's got the big shirt, got the contract. You felt he was going to play some part, and now you would argue he's definitely their best winger, making contributions. He wants it, making big contributions, and I thought he was a big plus for them. And I think moving forward, he'll be a mainstay in the team. But yeah, I thought they deserved to win, and Hoyland at the end as well. Look, he gets his first Premier League goal, took it really well, instinctive finish, in off the post, and like I said, as much as Villa were a bit of a non-entity, I mean they poured it on little. They had, I think, a chance with McGinn, which was cleared off the line, but I thought United really kind of just wrestled the initiative back in the second half and kept going, kept going, kept going. And in the end, like I said, I thought it deserved to win the game. So incredible game for the neutral. I thought it was a really fun game. Old Trafford was absolutely rocking. In terms of the larger picture, I'm not sure. I think you can't make any sweeping statements with Man United other than to say, yeah, it's the old Paul Merson comment. It's a bag of revels at the moment. You don't know you don't know
Yeah.
what you're gonna get. But look, in amongst all the doom and gloom, there was a moment of ecstasy, I think, at Old Trafford against a good team as well. So,
Mm.
big result. Again, I'm not going to read too much into it. They need to put a lot more together for me to be a winner. For me to be convinced that Ten Hag is somebody who can maybe stick around till the end of the season and then take charge from next season onwards.
It looked like for the first time they were playing with clear minds in the second half. And I think that's more to do with once you're 2-0 behind, there is
Yeah,
only one way
yeah,
to play. And I think there was a sense of freedom, and it almost just, it, it, it was almost the way that you'd want them to play normally from the get-go, from the first whistle. Just express yourself, just go out there, try and prove that you're better players than the opposition. And maybe that's, I mean, I don't know with Ten Hag. I mean, he's an experienced coach, so he's not just going to be influenced by one half, but it almost should be that, right, this season, I won't sort of say it's a write-off, but develop or at least have an idea of play. Because at the moment, I'm still not sure what his style of play is. There are lots of managers who have certain styles, certain philosophies. I'm still yet to be made aware of what Ten Hag's philosophy is and what his style is, because it just seems so disjointed. But for the first time, or at least one of the rare times, in that second half, it was just, it was there was no sort of reservations. And again, the result, the fact they were a couple of goals behind, always sort of makes it easier. But I'd almost sort of think that as a United fan, I'd be expecting Ten Hag to just say, right, this is what we're going to do now. We're going to be on the front foot. We're not going to park buses, even though it was obviously effective against Liverpool. Because if nothing else, at least the United fans deserve some sort of football which excites them. I mean, and you were absolutely right. I mean, I'm not a United fan. I've not been to Old Trafford many times, so I've no idea what a United, what an Old Trafford is like when it's absolutely rocking. But it can't be far away from the way it was in that second half. And you're right. I'm still not sure exactly which way it's going to pan out for Ten Hag. I've got a feeling that he'll last the season at least. I mean, I just can't see it because if if you're going to remove a manager, the ideal time always is just before January because it gives that new coach an opportunity, maybe one or two signings. So I don't think it's going to happen. But I think United are just at this moment in it's between and betwixt. They're not sure what they're supposed to be doing, how they're supposed to be playing, what the philosophy is, what the culture is. If they do get top four, and there's a good chance they might do, I think that will be an outstanding season. I think if nothing else, if they just finish top four, that will be an outstanding season for Manchester United. But there are serious, serious questions at Old Trafford. I'm not sure what Ratcliffe is going to bring. I mean, I'm not sure whether he can make any decisions now, but it will be interesting to see what he what he introduces to Old Trafford. By all accounts, he's going to be managing the football inside, or at least that seems to be the conversation. He's a Manchester lad. He supports Manchester United, so but he's a businessman first and foremost. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, it is. I mean, I said a soap opera, and it is a soap opera at Manchester United at this moment in time, and it must be difficult for United fans because it there is absolutely nothing at this moment in time that they can cling to. There's the odd result, but that can't be for a club of United standing. You can't just be clinging on to odd results.
Exactly. And I think quite often when you think about some of the best teams in league history, Ayub, it's the boring and mundane that you actually want to kind of strive for. And what I mean by that is, I don't mean in terms of the playing style. I mean just the ability to churn out results, right? Where it's minimum of fuss, 1-0, 2-0, done and dusted, third gear. And it's that what United also made a steady diet out of. As much as we like to think that during the Ferguson years, it was always kind of incredible, they didn't always have to come back from a goal down or 2 goals down and win it at the death. That was something they had in their locker. It's just something that you don't want to go to your point, time and time again. It's not something you can make a steady diet of. You're absolutely right. I thought you nailed it, Ayub. It was clear minds. It was, look, we're going to either lose this 4-0 or we're going to try and get back into it. And there were some signs in the first half that they were going to get some goals. They had some opportunities. So give them credit in amongst all the kind of negativity for them to kind of roll up their sleeves and put a performance like that together in the second half. Villa really genuinely didn't know what to do. They really pushed Villa back. I thought Villa did run out of fumes, but again, that's to United's credit. The problem, like I said, I think if you're a United fan, and yes, baby steps come first, you want your team to slowly start to build something that will resemble or give you an opportunity for long-term success. And that's where I bring the boring and mundane into it, which is having a solid back four, having a keeper who's settled, having a team that plays through the thirds comfortably and has the ability to score a lot of goals. Yes, against Villa, they look like they could have scored 10 if they wanted to, but they've not scored enough goals this season. They look like they're conceding plenty. I mean, that goal that is conceded against Villa, the second one, again, the first one's a joke, second one's no one's marking anybody. So it's just you're a pretty average team right now, and I think United must be striving for more, and that's why I agree with you. He may stumble till the end of the season. I'm not saying he should be fired. I just think when you've got new ownership, I think Sir Dave Brailsford is kind of performing a full kind of audit in terms of the playing side and what have you. So you're right; they may not make a decision, anything hasty, in the coming weeks and months, but they'll probably want to get top four. They'll want Champions League football next season to kind of build onto. So let's see. I just think right now there's not enough for me to kind of cling on to if I was a United fan to say, look, this is where we're going. This is what I can see. I think right now it's all a bit haphazard with the odd amazing half that brings you a great result. So, yeah, not enough for me. I still think they've got tons of work to do, and I don't really see that kind of long-term consistency or kind of outlook just yet.
Well, they've got Forest tomorrow, so you'd expect 3 points. But in saying that, Forest had a decent result, so you never can be sure with Manchester United. But enough about Manchester United. Now we've talked about Manchester United for quite a while. Let's talk about it. Almost, I think, it could be the story of the season. Luton Town. I
The floor's yours, Ayub. The floor's
yeah.
yours.
I mean, I've got to say that I mean, I don't mind eating humble pie. If there's a team that has surprised me, shocked me, uh, that team has to be Luton Town. I really, really thought that they were just going to be whipping boys. I really did because I mean, I said right at the start of the season that I was quite impressed by the chairman's strategy in one way because invariably teams that come up really do struggle. Even if they spend, they struggle to stay up. So I said at the time that he was quite smart. He was not really making heavy investments. almost anticipating that they probably will go down. But at least he will save a fortune. Uh, they'll have 1 year of experience of playing against really good sides. They'll obviously still have a side, slightly improved side that from the side that went up. So in theory, they should walk the championship. But certainly when they go back up, he could strengthen significantly to then think about staying in the English Premier League. But my goodness me, I have been absolutely astounded by the way that they've played, in the sense that it's not, I mean, it's not expansive football, but they've worked hard, damn hard. But they've got results as well now. I mean, they've got good results against good teams. And when they have been beaten, very rarely are they battered. What I've been so impressed with is the work rate, is the application, is the attitude. It's the never say die attitude, and they leave nothing behind. I mean, you've got two players who have played for England, Townsend and Barkley. These guys are giving it everything. I mean, they're in the twilight of their careers. I mean, Townsend, what a wonderful story. I mean, he was surplus to requirements at Burnley, and he was gutted by all accounts. He was heartbroken that they didn't offer him a deal. Uh, so he's gone to Luton, and he's been outstanding. Albeit it's been quite a workman-like performance by Townsend, but he's been outstanding. He's got a diet of, what is it, chicken feet or whatever
Chicken
he eats.
feet. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's working. And Ross Barkley, I mean, he's a player that I've been a huge admirer of. I think, and he had a brief stint with Leeds United as well on loan, and I've always been a fantastic fan. And it's almost one of those stories where what could have been with Ross Barkley if it had been injury free, maybe had a really good run, made right choices as well. Sometimes I think moves are absolutely key and crucial. Should he have gone to Chelsea? I don't know. I mean, maybe a sort of stay in Everton, maybe 1 year, 2 years more would have been better. But he's an outstanding player, and he's at the moment he's staying injury free, which is crucial for Luton, and he's the talisman at this moment in time. So it's as I said, I am absolutely, I have no problem at all taking back all of those negative things that I said, and they fully deserve it. And I've got a really strong feeling that they may stay up because they're grinding out results. They're not. I don't think they fear anybody at all. I think they're aware that obviously they're not going to out football anybody, but certainly what they are going to give is a damn good goal. They're not going to give in. They're going to fight until the last minute, and sometimes that could be enough to stay up.
It's funny because you started by saying that you don't mind eating humble pie. Looking at you, it looks like you don't mind eating any type of pie. But yeah, just
over the last couple of weeks, my goodness me.
But no, look,
this needs to be widescreen.
Widescreen indeed. They do say the camera adds £10, maybe 20, 20 in your case. But no. Look, I think you're absolutely right, Ayub. If you look back at some of their results, I mean, look at it. They lost by the odd goal to City. They lost by the odd goal to Manchester United. It required a 97th minute winner for Declan Rice to give Arsenal a win. Arsenal, they could have beaten Liverpool at home if it wasn't for Diaz's equalising in the 88th, 89th minute or whatever it was. So they've given some of the big teams that beaten Newcastle, obviously, in this last couple of games by a goal to nothing. So they're always, to your point, Ayub, always in games. And there's something I admire. I mean, you mentioned, obviously, you wrote them off, and so did I. I had them going down as well. Perhaps not to the same level of points that you suggested that they might get, but I had them going down as well, and they've been doing a damn sight better than I anticipated. And it was something I was thinking about whilst I was watching the Arsenal West Ham game yesterday, when West Ham looked like they were going to eat fine. I was thinking about it minute 70 or 75th minute onwards, that it just goes to show in the Premier League, like, this is what it's about. You have to apply yourself each and every week, and it's 38 games, and it's a long slog, and no point is given. You've got to earn every last little bit of it. And Luton Town, right now, especially in front of their home faithful, are pretty much playing to their strengths, giving it everything. They're fighting, they're battling, they're squeezing every last little bit of kind of talent and hard work out of themselves, and they're giving themselves a fighting chance. We're at the halfway mark. They're a point shy of being safe, and giving themselves a little bit of gap to the team that's 19th and 20th. So these back-to-back wins they've got in the next 5 games. They've got Burnley and Sheffield United. Yes, Chelsea first. They've got a kind of home to Brighton as well. So there's games in there you wouldn't just write off, and gives them a chance to build on. So look, they've been doing incredibly well. You mentioned about Ross Barkley. I think you're right in terms of some of the choices he's made, not just professionally but maybe also personally as well. But it just goes to show, and I'm so happy for him in some ways, that a player who's incredibly talented could have forged a good career with England as well, you would have thought, in terms of international recognition, in terms of the way he plays. It's nice that even at this stage of his career, he's still got a few good years left in him, that he's found a place where he can play his best football. And I think he is maybe perhaps a big fish in a small pond, if I can say. But he's really churning out performances. I thought he was incredible against Arsenal. So he's really been a big player for them in terms of catalyst to giving them a little bit of class in the middle of the park. And he's got class, left foot, right foot. He can boss the game, tackle, get forward, dribble, shoot, all the rest. He's got the tools, hasn't he? It's just what's happening upstairs and maybe perhaps finding the right environment for himself. So, yes, big. And you mentioned Townsend again. He got the winner against Newcastle. And I think there is something to be said about the whole situation with Tom Lockyer and how Luton Town have kind of gathered around that and kind of really gone on from that and been buoyed and gone from strength to strength. Look, they've given themselves a great opportunity. I think it's an incredible story. I still think if they survive, that'll be one of the biggest Premier League stories in Premier League history, in my opinion. But yeah, look, Rob Edwards doing a fantastic job. It's what you said, Ayub. They're not really getting shellacked, are they? I mean, they had one or two shaky performances early on, and maybe it takes a bit of time, right? Getting used to the Premier League, what it's all about. But right now, they're always in games. They are always in games. And when you're in games, you've always got a chance, like Sheffield United. They were losing 2-1, and you think it's probably one they're going to have to call a day. And all of a sudden, yes, a couple of own goals, so definitely some luck. But listen, you earn your luck. Big win there as well away to Sheffield United. So interesting. I mean, 15 points. You did say they'll get less than 10, Ayub. And at the halfway mark, they've got 15. So, yeah, you were wildly wrong, at least in
Yeah,
that
I was.
respect.
I was. And I don't mind admitting it. I mean, obviously, I got vilified by a lot of Luton fans, and rightly so. But and you're right. I think it will be if they do stay up. Considering how they've done it as well, as I said, it's minimal spend. I'm not sure exactly how much they've spent. But in terms of teams coming up, I don't think any team that's come up has spent less, unless somebody can correct me, than Luton. So it's a fantastic performance. And you're right, Edwards has done an amazing job with an unfashionable club. Luton are a very unfashionable football club. And what they've done is they've fought tooth and nail. Obviously, with the Lockyer, they've got some good results. But prior to that as well, I mean, Lockyer, in a sense, was almost he epitomised exactly what Luton is all about. He's just giving it everything, playing for the shirt, and just making sure that you leave nothing behind. So great story. And you mentioned it's halfway. So what I'm just going to do is quickly ask you, in terms of where we're at, and who do you think? Or what do you think will be the top four finish now? I mean, we've obviously done this. I thought we've not discussed this, or at least we've not sort of said that we're going to talk about this. So I'm going to just throw it out there at this moment in time, this sort of halfway point in the season. Who's your top four come the end of the season?
Do I have to give a particular order?
Yeah. Otherwise, it's to a point.
I'm gonna stick with what I said for the time being. I think City might still edge it. I think with De Bruyne and Haaland to come, I think Liverpool to finish second, Arsenal to finish third, and I think I opted for United perhaps to finish fourth, but it could be anyone that fourth spot. It's going to be between United and Spurs. I think Villa. I'm not so sure. So I'll give United just the nod somehow, some way, and that's how I see it ending up the
Just go
top
through
four.
that again. Who was your number one again?
So I think City will just edge it. I
Okay.
don't feel that with any great deal of confidence, by the way. I just think City, Liverpool, and Arsenal perhaps are the three best teams. Just hard to make sense of it. City, Liverpool, Arsenal, and United.
All right. Okay. That's unusual because that's the same four that I've got, not in the same order. Liverpool, obviously, I've always talked about Liverpool winning the league, and over the last week, maybe I'm a little bit more confident, not by just performances, but by just maybe some of the results that are happening at this moment in time. Second, the Arsenal. I think in terms of footballing side, I still say they're the best footballing side. I mean, it seems a contradiction in terms by saying that and then saying Liverpool are going to win the league, but I just think that they are playing the most consistent football. And if my head says it probably is Arsenal, but really I'm going to go with my heart. So Liverpool, Arsenal, City third, and I think United fourth. It just seems so ridiculous to say, but I just sort of think it's going to be that sort of season for United that everybody's going to write them off. Fans are going berserk, but they keep sort of producing decent results here and there. I just got a feeling that they're going to go on some sort of run. They have to, and they'll sort of sneak into that fourth spot, and it will be a remarkable season for Manchester United. But that's my four as we're at the halfway mark.
Just a quick comment on Liverpool, Ayub, if I may. I think the thing about Liverpool is they've obviously got Salah, who's going to go away. I think he's got one game left, right, in the Premier League, and then he's going away to the AFCON and what have you. And I think, look, there's been a lot. Liverpool have lost one game so far. In 19 games, they've lost one game, and that game, we know which game it was against Spurs. I mean, less said, the better. But look, I think what many of us, when we observe Liverpool, we obviously look at them through the kind of tinted glasses of the fact of what they were when they had Mane, Firmino, Salah in their absolute pomp, Henderson at his athletic best, Fabinho, even kind of Thiago and then Van Dijk, and it's the team, Robertson, all at their peak of their powers. And we look at it and we say, this team's not quite that. And I would agree, actually. I don't think this team's quite that. I mean, that was an incredible team, one of Europe's absolute best. But I think when we do that, we do them a disservice because we then look at it and think they're a bit short here and they're a bit short there. I think if they can navigate the Salah absence and get through some games, doesn't matter how you perform, just try and get as many wins as possible. The one thing that's clear from a Liverpool perspective that I've seen is that their bench is making massive contributions. You saw that with the second goal against Burnley as well. Diaz to Jota both came off the bench, and we've seen that game in, game out. They've now got a bench where they can make a difference, get onto the pitch and make a big difference and turn around games or consolidate games or whatever it may be. Harvey Elliott against Palace was another one where he scored the goal in injury time and what have you. I just think we've got to stop looking at them through the lens of what does a championship winning team look like. I think this team's a more workmanlike, more making the difference at critical moments type team, if that makes sense. So I think with a world-class goalkeeper, a world-class centre-back, Arnold now really finding his feet in terms of this new hybrid position, Salah being Salah, and yes, some of the new boys and some of the younger players are now coming to the fore, Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, just to name a few. I think, again, we do them a disservice when we simply compare them to the Liverpool teams of old. Ultimately, they've got to try and win a Premier League title this season. And when you look at it this season, they're there on merit. I don't agree or disagree. I don't agree with those who say, well, still not playing well enough. I think, look, you are who you are. It's the halfway mark. I think they deserve to be top, 2 points clear. Yes, they've got to navigate this tricky next period without their talisman, but someone's going to have to, I keep saying, someone's going to have to win this Premier League title. And right now, I think they're there absolutely on merit, and they'll fancy themselves with the coach that they have, with the players that they have, the pedigree they have, to go absolutely the whole way. And look, you ask me, you tell me, who do you think City want to see down the road when it comes to the last 4 or 5 games? Would they rather go up against Arsenal again in terms of it being a title challenge, or would they rather go up against Liverpool? They want to go up against Arsenal because Liverpool have shown that they can be there and tough it out when push comes to shove. So, listen, they're there on merit, and I think they'll take some beating.
I hope that's the case, because that's really what I want, and obviously Liverpool fans as well. So, and on that note, hopefully it's a positive note for Liverpool fans. Liverpool going to win the league, according to OS.
Let's see. Well, just
that's very nice of an Arsenal fan to say so.
Just before we wrap up, I'm not going to give my predictions, but you've been very kind to Luton Town fans this episode, Ayub. But who are your bottom three to go down?
Forest, Burnley,
Forest
United. Yeah.
Wow.
Got a feeling they're going to be soaked in. I've just got a feeling that Luton they're going to get more results. I think they're working tremendously hard. They're going to get results. Forest, I don't know. I just got a feeling that they perhaps are going to be drawn into this relegation scrap. I mean, they're there or thereabouts.
Did you see the
decent result?
Yeah. Did you see the game? Did you see the game?
No, I've seen the goals, but decent result.
If you had put a silhouette on the goals that Nottingham Forest scored against Newcastle and said to me, which striker scored all 3 goals, I'd still be guessing today because there's no way Chris Wood is capable of scoring the type of goals that he scored. And I mean that respectfully. Like, he took those so well. I thought maybe he got the confidence. I don't know if you saw it, but Ilanga should have passed to him early on. He then does pass to him for the goal. But the second 2 goals, I mean, Newcastle are on fumes at the moment, I can tell. But I thought he took his goals like a proper striker and give him massive credit. I mean, those are 2 incredibly good finishes. I saw what Sterling did against Wolves. I don't know if you saw that chance when he should have passed to the side or at least gone around the keeper. But I just remember thinking, Wood just taking those chances so well. I thought, look, Nottingham Forest changed the manager. Let's see. But you're right. I do think they'll have a season where they'll be there or thereabouts in amongst the bottom 3.
I mean, Chris Wood, he has got it in his locker. And he's another former Leeds player. He's never going to be a prolific striker, but there are going to be moments. I mean, I think the problem with strikers such as Chris Wood, that they'll have a game in 20 where he perhaps showcases what he's capable of, but unfortunately, top players play like that week in, week out. And it's a shame because he had moments of brilliance at Leeds as well.
Does it remind you of other Leeds strikers who have 1 good game in 20?
Well, no. I'd be happy with 1 good game in 20. When we're in the Premier League, in the Championship, it's a little bit different. But right, on that note, let's call it a day. It's Friday. I've got a wedding to go to in about half an hour or so. In fact, 20 minutes or so. And I'm not fancying it at all. It's brutal outside. I'd rather be in. Well, I was going to say I'd rather be in the warmth. It's quite nippy here as well, but I'd rather be indoors than outdoors. But I'm going to have to go in about 20 minutes. All right, so that's my plans, and then come back and then just sort of sweat like mad at the Wolves Leeds game.
West Brom Wolves. West Brom Leeds.
Oh, who did I say? Wolves.
Wolves. Yeah, you're not in the you're not in the Premier you're not in the Premier League already, mate.
See, that's how nervous I am. I can't even get the teams right. Right, but that's my plans. What's your plans today and this weekend?
I'm gonna be doing a bit of a puzzle with my daughter. She goes, "Oh, can we do a puzzle later on?" So we're putting a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle together. But rest and recuperation, I still need to get this Dubai trip out of the system. So a bit of R&R.
Rightly so. So have a cracking weekend. We'll be probably recording sometime next week, reviewing the weekend's performances. So until then, stay warm, stay safe. Don't go outside. It's just too wild. Stay indoors. Feast yourself on the Just Onside. We've got tons and tons of videos. Enjoy that. All right, then. Until the next time, stay safe.